I'm Nicole Nalepa, and you're listening to Mommyhood Unscripted, real talk about moms for moms. Hey everyone, I'm so glad you found this special episode of Mommyhood Unscripted. This is a mommy profile episode, and we are highlighting who the Times has hailed as Broadway musical's undisputed queen. That is who we are talking with today. She's a mom of two, and she was just such a delight. Her name is Kelli O'Hara. I'm sure you've either maybe seen a production of hers or possibly you've seen her on TV. She's been in a lot of different TV shows and series. Kelli O'Hara is a Tony Award winner, Emmy and Grammy-nominated actress who has appeared in 11 Broadway shows. And currently she stars as Aurora Thane in HBO's critically acclaimed series, The Gilded Age. So how does she do it all? And she's also the mother of a preteen and a teenager as well. So it was really interesting to hear that perspective of motherhood and also just seeing her trajectory in her career, how she not only got to where she is, but how family fit into that trajectory as well. I'm always so intrigued to see how that all works, especially for those with some very public jobs, right? So I hope you would enjoy this conversation. I certainly did. Kelli had some great advice, some great quotes as well, and just really gave you, like I mentioned, some great perspective on just a mom that's making it happen for herself and her family. So enjoy the conversation. Kelli O'Hara, thank you so much for coming on to Mommyhood Unscripted.
Oh, it's so fun to be here. Thank you.
First of all, you grew up in a small town in Oklahoma.
That's right.
Did you always have this dream of being on Broadway? Did you know you were going to do this? Were you determined from the get-go?
I don't think that I had enough access to the idea of Broadway to have that dream. I just had the dream that I would sing and act in some way. I didn't know what that meant. I knew movie musicals the best because obviously I didn't have a lot of live theater. So I definitely had, Sound of Music and Carousel and Oklahoma and all those. So I thought, whatever way I can find to do that is what I want to do. So it wasn't until I got a little older and really learned more about Broadway. I wasn't even one of those kids, and I hate to admit it, that watched the Tony Awards. I just didn't have anyone to show me that.
Hmm.
So in fact, I think I was grown by the time I even saw a Broadway show. I was 21. I didn't even visit New York. So I made up a lot of dreams in my head. I imagined a lot of different things. So, but I think that's good because by the time it really came in focus for me, I was so hungry. I wasn't tired of it. I wasn't overburdened with it, which, I think about that a lot for kids today and raising my own two kids. I saw so many of my friends start very young, whether it be sports or music or art or whatever, start very, very young. And we all moved to New York City and then they were done. They had
Mm.
enough. They were just too tired. And by that time, I was just getting started. So
Mm.
then it all started. Yeah.
So was it the burnout that kind of caused them
Yeah.
to be done? Yeah.
It's burnout but it's also an interesting thing. If you go into anything professional, it's probably because you've been pretty successful at doing it in the particular place you're in. And I think that New York is a very, very humbling, humbling thing. And so if it's not coming easily, I think that can also be a deterrent right away. Well, this isn't, I never had to, I want to do it, I think, even though I'm tired of doing it, but I'm not getting it very easily. So I'll just go do something else.
Mhm.
Whereas I hadn't done enough of it. I definitely did my high school musical and stuff like that, but I just wanted so much more from it. And so then the journey began when I was kind of college and post-college age, as opposed to it beginning when I was four.
Right, right. Yeah, and and that's the other thing. Sometimes from a young age, right, these kids are obsessed or just become infatuated with some kind of art or
Mhm.
even sports and it's hard, I think, for parents. At what point you want to support
Oh,
them?
sure.
First of all, you want to expose them at the same time, but it's so hard. I feel like it's like driving a car and it's like constantly hanging the brakes. Like, is it too much,
Yeah.
like what is the fine line? And I'm sure you've seen that too, backstage and off stage with just the shows and productions that you've you've done with like the younger actors and
Oh, absolutely. And I believe me, I raised my kids in a town where it is very competitive like that. You know, if you're going to play a sport, you're basically going to pick your major when you're in seventh grade.
yeah,
You're going to pick
exactly.
your focus. And so it's hard to make sure that your kids are well-rounded.
Hmm.
It's hard because if you want to play, varsity lacrosse, or you better start lacrosse and you better give lacrosse all your time from the time you're in seventh grade. I think that's something I've been thinking about a lot with my kids. They both happen to love music and art, but can we get them in a tennis lesson over here? Can we, in between rehearsals and concerts, can we make sure that they're doing a group sport, or some other creative art activity, just so that when they get into the real world, it's not just Johnny one note. You know what I mean? Even as
Hmm.
even as a person, we're all more fascinating if we're multi-knowledgeable,
Right, right.
And you do see the people that the young people in the theater and stuff who've only done the one thing. And so you go to say, hey, this is a musical about soccer players. And that,
Yeah.
and nobody knows how to do anything but point their toes and do a pirouette. So I always loved that I did a lot of things. I played sports. I mean, where I'm from, sports was everything, right? And
Right.
and I happen to love musicals, and everybody thought I was weird. So I still played sports, but now I'm grateful for it because the discipline in that, the hard work in that, the teamship in that, the teamwork is a big thing for me. Yeah,
Hmm.
and I do believe there's a lot of that in theater as well. But it helps you to learn about teamwork and hard work in all different areas.
Right. And it's yeah, that being that well-rounded person like you're speaking to, it's so important
Mhm.
for us to expose our kids to that. How old are your children again right now?
So my son just turned 16, and
Okay.
and my daughter's 11, almost 12.
All right.
Um, and yeah, you know what? As we've exposed them to all sorts of options, and it's the family business. They couldn't help but really fall. They're definitely falling onto the musical side of things.
Were there any times where they kind of didn't want to do that?
I definitely think that we, especially when the kids were younger like that, you think one choice is sort of a major choice.
Yeah.
And what I learned was we had both of our kids in piano and different things like that and sports.
Hmm.
And my son wasn't really jiving with piano. He was going to Suzuki, he was learning, he was good, but he didn't love going.
Hmm.
And we made a compromise with him. He was still playing baseball. But then he broke his foot one summer playing baseball. And we needed to think quickly and get him in something fun. And we decided to put him in School of Rock.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and he learned about pop music and jazz piano. And then so he decided to start taking jazz piano lessons. And his life changed, but that wasn't until he was 12. I mean, his entire life changed. His whole life now is music and jazz piano and mallet percussion in the band. And that all happened after, you know, after when he was old enough to kind of really decide what he wanted.
And that's the thing I think as parents, right? We want them to find their way,
I
but I
know,
and I think
yes.
I think their way it comes to them, in their own time. It sounds like with your son.
Yeah, it's really just about that. What some of our best friends were both college athletes. They're a couple, and their kids are our kids' friends. And it's funny because their kids are now all into sports. Like every weekend, six lacrosse games, da da da.
Oh my
Our
gosh.
our kids are all into music. And so I think to myself, as much as you want to make sure you're not influencing too much,
Hmm.
you can't help but you have a house, a home with music in it. The
Right.
the kid is going to learn about music. You have a house that loves sports and goes out and plays sports. You're going to have a kid that at least knows about sports,
Hmm.
right? And then at some point, as long as you're okay when they say, I'm so sorry, mom and dad, I want to not do basketball again next year. I've decided not to play baseball, or mom and dad, I don't want to do piano lessons anymore.
Right.
But my husband did say to my son, you do not have to do this for your life, but I do want you to stick with piano lessons. This is when he was really like 8.
Yeah.
He said, this is a language we speak in our family. And
Ooh.
I would like for you to learn to speak the language, but you don't have to do it for a living.
Oh, I got chills when you said that. I like that
Yeah.
a lot. That resonates with our family too, for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
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 And it's just a good base. It's piano's so great too because that's like learning to read music. It's also, the percussive instrument too. So there's a lot of different lessons within that instrument, I would say, in
Yeah.
itself too.
Yeah.
So that's great. How did you find your way as a parent doing everything that you do and that you've done so far in your career? And also, that fine line of also being a mom because, whether you work at home, inside the home, right, as a full-time mom, or you're outside of the home, like it's hard either way, right? There's so
Absolutely.
much that like weighs heavy on our shoulders as moms. But I'm so curious in how you navigate that.
Yeah. It has been I would say that I navigated on occasion really well. And then some there it's never perfect. In fact, I've grappled with that sort of, people talk about it as a balance. And I've also heard people say very rightly, it's never in balance.
Yeah.
I mean, if you hit the mark once in a while, you're lucky. What I know to be true is how much I want to be a present mother. And it was a dream of mine, yes, to go sing and act. But for my whole life, I wanted to be a mom. And
Mm.
that was something that I knew. And when I first had my son, I was deep into the middle of basically the rising of my career. It was South Pacific.
Oh,
It was
wow.
one of the bigger shows I'd done. And I remember feeling this massive guilt, of I I left South Pacific to have him, and then I decided not to do any shows for like almost a year. But I just did concerts, but because I needed to make a living.
Hmm.
That's another thing with two artists in the house. But I just carried him on me, to the airport. We went, I'd do the concert, and either my mom or my sister or someone would fly and meet me there, watch him while I did the concert, and then he's back on, I'm nursing. I made it happen. And I
Hmm.
look back and I think, I'm so proud I did that. But I remember this wonderful interview I was doing, and it was a woman for the Wall Street Journal, I think. And I said, my son, when I leave, he was 3 at the time or something. He's like, I don't want you to go. I don't want you to go. And we were talking about it. And I said, I know, I'm sorry. I have to go to work, but I'm going to come right back. I would try to refocus it. And then tomorrow morning, because I had my days free. It was great. I had my days free, but then I would have to
Right.
go to she said, no, no, no. You have to say, mommy gets to go and
Yeah.
sing and act and make people happy and use my talent to spread joy. And then on Sunday, because every Sunday for my whole career, my kids have always come to the theater and they've always been a part of my dressing room and sometimes other shows too. But Sundays were always our big day together. But I'd say, and then I'd say, I get to go and you're going to come too. You're going to meet everybody. You're going to get to know the show I do. So from that moment on, I'm so grateful for it.
Mm.
I reinvented the story. It was
Mm.
because they listen to you. They follow your lead. So if I'm sorry and my face is sorry,
Yeah.
then he's thinking, this is bad. This whole thing is bad and I don't want you to do it anymore. But when I said, no, no, guess what? Guess what? I'm going to go and you remember that song that goes like this? I'm going to sing that. And all these people are going to be there and hopefully they're going to be happy. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you all about it. And then on Sunday, you can go and you can watch it too or something.
Yeah.
And I think now that I see both of my kids loving this art form, my daughter's all into musical theater. I think that I take it as a sign that they don't hate what we do, but
Mm.
instead they took it as a positive.
And that's so important to teach our kids that too, because I think so often I have so many friends too that, one that even left the workforce, out of like that mom guilt. And
Yeah,
even coming out of the pandemic, of course, we heard
right.
so many stories of women leaving their careers too. And I think it's so important. And I'm speaking from my personal experience that, you know, there's a part of you that you get to keep alive that's separate from your family, right?
Yes,
And for them to see you doing something that you're passionate about and that you love, like you're teaching them and giving them permission that it's okay for you to go out there into the world and find what makes you tick, And there
absolutely.
is a way to make it work, right? I mean, it's never easy, but there's a
Right.
way.
Yes. Well, and I say, I made this wonderful documentary with Renee Elise Goldsberry, and her husband says in the documentary, he says, go to work, go do it. You're a star in Hamilton, go do it. But if you're not going to enjoy it because you're going to have all this guilt, he's like, it's not worth it. The point is, if you're going to be there, be there. Be there fully and
Mm.
take from it the sustenance that know you need, and then come back here and be fully here. You know, we have to make living as artists, but it's also what you said. It's that passion and that something in you that does come alive. And now listen, every version of this motherhood is worthy. But what I've seen too with many friends who have left the workforce, it's often well, I can't. I have to. I'm going to go back to that phrase. I have to because of the kids. Well, what you do in your own mind then, and probably to them too, because they hear it, is I don't really want to, but I have to. And then later comes the resentment. Really,
Mm.
so
Yeah.
what you have to do is you have to, what is Glennon Doyle, she says, get off of Martyrdom Mountain.
Yeah.
Come on down off Martyrdom Mountain. And it's not you have to. It's I choose to do this. I choose to stay home because I'm a fantastic homemaker. I take pride in my home. I take, I'm passionate about my kids' lives. I have my own, passion about how I have this home. That's beautiful. Be there.
Mhm.
But if there's something that's clawing at you, do not allow your children. What does Young say? I'm going to quote all these people. Young
Yeah.
say, there's no greater burden on a child than the unlived life of a parent, right?
Oof, yeah. That's a
So
good quote.
it's one of my favorites.
Mm.
So you're only helping them
Hmm.
because you put your oxygen mask on first. You're only helping them if you fulfill, even if it's little bits of things. Go out and take an art, a painting class, but you're doing something for yourself so
Hmm.
that you can come home and you can say, now I'm ready. Now I'm ready
Right.
to be fully here for you.
Yeah, you're filling your cup. Absolutely. Yeah, you're putting your true, authentic self forth. It's all a form of self-care too for ourselves. So that makes
Yes.
so much sense. Over the years, with the characters that you played both on stage and even, in front of the camera, which love the Gilded Age, by the way,
Thank you.
is there one character that you feel you've connected with the most with who Kelli is?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. Um, it's funny because I think people think I'm a certain way. I have comments like that. I'm pretty goofy, when I do my solo shows, real goofy, and they'll say, "Gosh," I had one woman say, "I thought you were like Mary Poppins or something, all strict," and because she'd probably seen King and I, or something
Right,
like that.
right.
Um, so I often think that, like Nice Work If You Can Get It, Billy Bendix, you know, um, she was a little tough and gruff and wanted to be strong, but also super goofy and not really good at being cool. I used to say that I felt a little bit like Billy Bendix, which I haven't thought about that show in a long time. I did it right before, like 12 years ago or whatever it was. Um, but that one, maybe a little Nellie Forbush, but only in the ways that she was goofy, not in the others at all.
Yeah.
But less so of the prim and proper person I always play.
Hmm.
I give off something, I think, as an actor or as just a being that I get hired for things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe sad or going through some hardship
Hmm.
or being just put together. And you can ask my family. I'm like, whatever. But so yeah, I don't often get to play characters like myself.
Right, which is
No,
so nice. That's probably what makes it fun too, right? Is you can do
totally.
that. Yeah. And that
Yeah.
just goes to speak to what a great actor and performer you are. People are really
Thanks.
convinced, like, wow, that's you.
Yeah, yeah. It's not me in real life. Yeah.
And with Friday's performance in the Berkshires at Tanglewood, you are no stranger to the Berkshires.
I
You've
love
been
it.
coming there for a long time, I understand. You and Sutton Foster are teaming up to put this show together and bring an amazing evening. And can you just talk about, what people can expect and the homage that you're paying to two amazing performers?
Absolutely. And talk about the goofy side. So there's a lot of goof in this show, but from both of us. But yeah, we wanted to do a play on be inspired by those televised specials that Julie Andrews and Carol Burnett used to do. Um, And so we made a show for Carnegie Hall that starts with that inspiration, but then goes into our careers and our friendship and our stories. And so now we're taking it on the road, and we were just at Ravinia in Chicago, and Tanglewood, which is one of my very, very favorite places to play ever, with the Boston Pops and Keith Lockhart, who are my favorites. I think what I know to be true about this show is that it is all about joy. There's really nothing but joy and goofiness, and there's some history. There's a lot of laughs. It's fully scripted. It's a real show. It's fully scripted. There's even comedy sketches. There's dance numbers. We have a small ensemble, and by the way, we like to hire our ensemble locally. So in every city,
Oh,
yeah. So we have two young ladies from Boston Conservatory joining our team, and that's the other thing, passing down Julie and Carol, Kelly and Sutton, and now two young future hopefuls joining us
wow.
on the stage. So it's um, it's been a really joyful thing to do, and you'll hear a lot of Broadway tunes, with that full orchestra, all brand new orchestrations. It's a pretty fantastic thing, I think.
Do
Yeah.
you find that there are a lot of opportunities in your career, that now that you're so well established, you're a household name, do you find that there's more opportunities to be a mentor for those who are coming up through the ranks or trying to?
Listen, I think every one of us can really point to someone who helped us,
Hmm.
no matter what version. In fact, I had a solo show at Carnegie several years ago, and I called it, the title was Never Go Solo. And what that meant was it's ridiculous to think that any of us do. Not only did we get a door opened for us, but when we're on the stage, there's a million people backstage making it work. There's a million people front of house making it work. There's producers, there's the wardrobe staff. It's just one of those things that takes a huge bit of collaboration. And when I was coming to New York from Oklahoma, having no connections at all, the one connection that my voice teacher had was she was a teacher of Kristen Chenoweth. And Kristen Chenoweth had started to make it in New York. And so she allowed me to audition for her agents. She didn't know me, but she trusted my teacher.
Hmm.
And she opened that door. She couldn't help what I did inside, but she opened it. And I got my first agents because of that. And I think to myself, what kind of, passing it on would I be doing if I didn't try to give people an opportunity that I had? It only
Hmm.
takes one. You walk in the door, you have to make something happen once you get in, but most of us need someone to unlock that door,
Hmm.
you know.
How were you able to avoid the burnout that came across working so hard to work your way up to the top?
Yeah, I really do go back to this idea that uh, I really hadn't had quite enough of it by the time I started. And then by the time I started, I didn't, first of all, I didn't go like this. And then,
Hmm.
I didn't shoot to the top when I was 22. That's not how my career has happened. I got a job in a local downtown Bridgeport Cabaret Theater was my first job.
Oh, that's great.
I moved to New York City and I immediately got cast. I got my equity card. I would take the train out to Bridgeport. Um, so I got that little role, and then I got a job understudying in a bigger show, and then that show I got because it was on the road. Then I got to be put in the Broadway show, and then I did this, and then I got this job, and then I got this job, and it continued. So I didn't get burned out because I thought the next best thing, the next best thing. It
Mm,
kept upping itself, and I often say to students. It's almost the best way you can do it because I've remained in love with it because of that.
mm,
I think it is really hard to shoot to the top in this business very quickly because, and this is the hard part about it, nobody wants you to stay on top too long. It's not
right.
fun. It's boring. It's boring. In any genre, to be
Hmm.
honest, it
Hmm.
actually becomes, how it's, especially in these days with social media and stuff,
Hmm.
something, it disappears by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Something huge can happen and by next week it's gone.
Hmm.
So imagine trying to be a person who happens and then
Right.
have someone say, you're not invited here. You were the host of the party and next year you're not invited.
Right.
That's what happens in our business and it can be a tough business. So the best thing to do is take that thing you did, no matter how great it felt, and just go a notch further and go a notch. And it's not that you feel like, oh, I'll never be enough. It'll never be enough. No, I try to
Mhm.
live in the moments of joy and celebration for sure. But the other way to play it is not a notch better, but a notch different.
Mm,
That's how I've always thought of it. It's like,
I like
okay,
that.
yeah, so I just did a revival. Now I'm going to do a brand new show that I've
Hmm.
originated. And I just did an original thing. Okay, now I'm going to go do maybe some television. And then maybe you come back to the theater, so
Right.
yeah. So it's always just by one-upping, I mean one different,
Yeah.
changing it up.
We have, performers come on and we interview all the time on our shows. And one thing is, they're so excited to, number one, just be cast. But then I always wonder, if you're continually cast for a few shows in the ensemble, I give people so much credit because obviously they want to be the star of the show, and
Yes, yes,
but there are people that their head is in the game, right? And they just continue to bring it every bit, every morsel of their body. They're on stage, they are on no matter what. They show up, even if they're in the back row for the entire
absolutely.
show.
Yes. No, I mean, that's a job. That's part of the job. It's really to find in yourself what makes it worth doing and what makes it worth caring about and really taking pride in your work. Because I promise you, you're noticed. I
Mm-hmm.
promise you, you can tell the difference between someone who really loves and cares about what they're doing and takes pride in it and someone who's phoning it in. I mean, we talk about that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like at the Metropolitan Opera, they have the Met Chorus, and those singers, those incredible singers, make a choice for security too, because it's a appointment that lasts for years.
Mm-hmm.
They make the choice to be an ensemble singer as opposed to continue going for the leads, so that they can have a secure job.
Mm-hmm.
And we make choices for lots of different reasons. Maybe they have families. Maybe they really enjoy being in choral singing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can never really know what someone's feeling. And if it's just making you miserable because you want that lead, then I say you keep trying for it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't say, well, this is my lot. No, you say, you know what, I'm going to try to improve in this way, try to improve in that way, try to get that next thing, or and never give up. But I
Mm-hmm.
do know people who take their ensemble positions very seriously, and they're my very favorite people to work with,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you all feed off that energy. That's what makes it the
Oh,
team that you're talking about.
exactly.
You made history in 2015 as the first artist to make the crossover from Broadway to the opera during your Metropolitan Opera debut in The Merry Widow. What was it like being on stage at the Met? I mean, going from Broadway, I know you trained, in opera in college, but that is just so amazing. Not everyone can do opera.
No, and I'm not even sure I can either, really. But I did train it. I think it was one of those things that one of these conversations, the things I said about making something different,
Yeah.
going to the edge of a different cliff for me, taking a risk. And I definitely wanted to audition and try to see if I could do something at the Met. I remember sitting out in the audience thinking, this is crazy. This is the scariest thing I've ever seen. And then when I got on the stage, because I've played many, many stages around the world for concerts, with symphonies, whatever. When I got on the stage, I thought, oh, I know how to be here. I've been on a stage. And for some reason, being on the stage was far less anxiety provoking than watching from the audience in the Met, because you give it this overwhelming characteristic. This is bigger than I could ever be. But it was very comforting to then get on the stage and think, I'm comfortable on a stage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never hugely comfortable in an opera. All three times I've been there, I'm not saying it's my central thing, but I did take peace and comfort knowing that it was a stage like other
Right.
stages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, going from Broadway, opera, and then doing TV work, that's a whole other different medium. Do you enjoy the difference in that too?
I do. I think that, we've for many, many years, it's been separate. We're really due to the pandemic and stuff, we're really getting into a world where they're meshing. Theater people are doing a lot more television, maybe not so much opera, but more television. It is a very different genre. It's incredibly different because of camera lenses and angles But that's part of the study, I think, is the part of the craft is learning a new craft, or adding to the craft you have by learning how something works differently.
Hmm.
And I don't think it'd be any different than working for the same company your whole life, but not doing the same thing every day, but with every case or client, there's a new challenge to overcome and to win. And I think that makes life so interesting.
Hmm.
And so as an actor, I see them as the same and completely not the same, but a great challenge.
Yeah, I can only imagine, especially with all the takes and everything. It's a lot
Yeah.
slower, I would imagine, than when you're doing your show.
Oh, yeah, I had to get used to that. I love that adrenaline rush,
Yeah.
But I think when you're playing something really satisfying on television, you get the same
Hmm.
adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
And, when they say action, you better be on. So that's good. Yeah.
Any parting advice for any moms out there that still have that dream and that desire burning in them, knowing that there's something greater for them, but they don't know how to like tap into that yet?
Oh gosh. I mean, listen, we're all different. I would never say you've got to do this, you've got to do that, because it's just not the way it works. It's like there's a lot of noise around us ladies right now.
Yes.
And I'm older than you, so I'm definitely going through the noise of how to take care of my body as I age and transition and into perimenopause, menopause, whatever that is. I know this is getting off topic, but what I
No,
learned
no.
what I learned about it recently was that I need to listen to me. I
Mm,
need to remember that I know how to take care of me and my body and my heart. So I think listening to a lot of noise about what you're supposed to be doing as opposed to what you really truly want to do is something we have to make sure to nurture. And
mm,
so if there's this little piece of you that thinks, well, everyone would think such and such about this if I did this, but blah, blah, I don't know if I want. That's the thing you got to do. So if
mm.
it's just going and I don't care what it is, it could be a book club, it could be a whole new career, it could be, taking up a foreign language, something that is just a little something for you. And no matter what anybody thinks about it, trust yourself. Just trust
Mm.
yourself.
Oh, I love that. Oh, well, thank you so much again, Kelly. Best of
Thank you.
luck. Break a leg at Tanglewood. Everyone's going to be so happy to have you back there up on the stage.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, Kelly. I appreciate your time.
Yours too. Thanks.
If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe to Mommyhood Unscripted. Share it with your friends, too. It's available on iTunes, Google Play, Roku, and everywhere else you get your podcast. I'm Nicole Nalepa. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, Mama, you're doing great.